podcast. My name is Lily Koesch Johnson. I am the marketing intern for AASPA, and I am so glad you guys are joining and listening in with us today. Today I'm joined by Tanya Dallas, one of our pre-conference presenters, and we're going to talk a little bit about what she's presenting on. Tanya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, first and foremost, Lily, thank you for having me. And as you said, my name is Tanya Dallas. I'm a career switcher into education. I have a background in human resources and television journalism and production. But here's my favorite part. I am a former 7th grade home ec and English language arts teacher, and also an award-winning national recording artist, and now a DEIB, that's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging consultant who has outrageous love for students and their families. So thank you for having me today.
No, of course. Thank you so much for joining us. So would you mind telling us a little bit about the session you're presenting on at this year's annual conference?
Yeah, so I'm really excited. The title of my session is In Urgent Need to Improve Diverse Educator Retention, Addressing Historical Failures, and Building Inclusive Solutions. So I'm really excited about this topic and an opportunity to share and chew and consider with my peers.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think would motivate someone to come to your session this time?
Well, I'm thinking that most of us are coming to this conference because we are working to do better in the institution of education. And part of that means that we are lifelong learners and acknowledging that we must always be willing to re-examine what we think we know, because the reality is we don't know it all. And so this is one of the reasons that I think folks will be drawn to my particular session, especially because my particular session is looking at a history and education. And this education around this hidden history can inform how we move forward to address educator workforce. Let me say it this way. We have a decimated pipeline when it comes to diverse educators. And so in order to fix that, there's some understanding. There is some learning that we must leverage. And this is what is going to help us get to that solution together. So I think that's probably something I'm hoping will motivate folks to come to a transformative PD where they are part of the solution. Like, I'm not the sage on the stage, up front, giving out all the answers. More so us coming together collectively because we all have value and we all have something of value to put on the table that benefits us all. And the only way, turn to your neighbor and say, the only way that it benefits us all is if we're all at the table together, sharing together, because the answers really are within all of us.
Absolutely. That is a great message, and that'll make for a great presentation. So what would you like your attendees to take away from your presentation after listening?
Well, I got a quick story for you. I recently went to the movie, and I saw this movie, no spoiler alerts here, called A Quiet Place. It's the third one. Have you seen it yet, Lily?
I have not, but I just watched the other two in preparation to do it this week, so I'm pretty excited.
Oh, you're helping with my session already. So you went and did your background research. You went and got information. You wanted to have an understanding so that by the time you got to part 3, you would understand what was going on. That is a wonderful approach. And so that's the part that I'm excited about my particular session, is one of the tools that I'd like people to walk away with is paralleled in this movie called A Quiet Place. So I'm not, again, no spoiler alerts, but what I love about the movie Quiet Place is that one of the tools or strategies that attendees will walk away with is being empowered with how we can keep the enemy from keeping us from our dream of really having a truly equitable education society. And so in the movie, most people who are familiar with part 1 and 2 know that when the air quote enemy comes to the planet, that humanity has to set their differences aside and work together to survive. And so part of my particular session is we're going to be looking at the hidden histories around Brown versus Board and how this has impacted teachers of color and how we hire, retain, and recruit teachers of color in our educational system. And so part of understanding the history of why those barriers were put into place are still in place, and then how this knowledge can inform how we repair that decimated teacher of color pipeline, is we must tell the history and refute the myth. We have a saying in the Black church, and it's called "Tell the truth and shame the devil." And what that means is it's really speaking to the power of exposing the truth, and that's when truth healing can begin. And so that's kind of that journey and that process that you took, Lily, when you decided to go and watch A Quiet Place 1 and 2. This was going to give you some keen insight. It was going to eliminate your blind spot. It was going to give you an opportunity to chew and consider, so that by the time that you sit down and watch this movie, this film with Lupita Nyong'o as the lead star, the lead actress, you would be able to walk away from this movie with a proper understanding. And so, honestly, the data shows us that when we don't take time to understand our work, we continue to make some of the same mistakes. And so I'm going to quote one of the books that I use heavily in my presentation. The author is Leslie Team Fenwick. She is a professor at Howard University. And she says this: the historical record shows that after Brown, in the dual system states, exceptionally credentialed and effective Black principals and teachers were purposely purged from public schools and replaced by less qualified staff. This disturbing history needs to frame policy and practice discussions about educator workforce diversity, because many of the levers that were used to eliminate Black principals and teacher leadership after Brown are still in use today. And so this impacts the entire school community. Poor kids, white kids, Black kids, Hispanic kids, Hmong kids, Vietnamese, Philippines, you name it. It's impacting every aspect of our school community when we fail to acknowledge, know the history, understand the history, and refute some of those myths. So then that is how we revisit some of our policies and practices that continue to keep diverse teachers out of our workforce today.
I love that. So you're really looking towards the past to see what all led up to how we are now, which is really a cool thing with those real world connections as well. That's awesome. So, what is one strategy from your session that attendees can implement immediately after returning from the conference?
So one of the things is going to be this power of this ability to have a courageous conversation. And Dr. Shiraki Holly, who is one of my mentors from afar, has this standard, this litmus test, so that people can identify if they've really had a courageous conversation or not. A lot of times people say, oh, courageous conversations are so important, but do we have a shared meaning of what a courageous conversation is? And so here's the four standards that he shares and I adopt as well to prove that we've had a courageous conversation, so that we can address the mental models that are in place in our school system, in our society, in our central offices, in our human resources, that shift conditions so we really can have, so we can do better in our educational, our institution of education. So number one, he says, you know you've had a courageous conversation if you have the opportunity to speak your truth. You were able to get things off of your mind, off your chest. Lily, number two, he says, you listen to someone else with an open mind. And then, numero tres, yes, number three, the conversation was uncomfortable. There really is such a thing as healthy tension. It's actually good for you. And then lastly, that the conversation was real talk, adult language, no mince words, all cards were put on the table. And so this is attached to the tool, which is attached to the question, which is, why are we still struggling? Yeah. Why are we still struggling in education today? And I think I want to ensure that the folks that come to this transformative PD, that this is a question that we're all answering together. Because the reality is that we all bring our own unique histories, perspectives, expertise. Did I say experiences? Did I say that? Yep. So we bring all of that to the table. And so when I say why are we still struggling, that really is me speaking informally to say something formally, which is, why are we still struggling to make real progress in education? And in my opinion, and based on the data, actually, let's reverse that. Who cares about my opinion? Based on the data is showing us that there is a part of the healing balm that has been removed, and that is diverse educators. That is your teachers of color. We have been removed out of the equation. And so this continues to impact how our marginalized, and when I say marginalized, I'm speaking of our low SES, and in the institution of education, we have a lot of acronyms. So let me be clear. Our low socioeconomic status, our poor white children, our ELs, our Hispanic Latino, our Black students, our homeless, our foster, our special ed, and et cetera, right? These groups continue to have to jump through, through barriers, over barriers, crawl under barriers, just to get true equitable access to a quality education. And we got the healing balm. We just left an ingredient out. And I need for us to sit down as professionals, as gatekeepers, as shepherds, as protectors of students together and have some real honest dialogue about why that is. And part of that, Lily, is understanding part 1 and 2 of A Quiet Place. You got to go back and watch part 1 and 2 and get the histories, because when you understand the history, now you know how to eliminate the enemy, or in our case, the stumbling blocks, the barriers that are keeping us from getting to where we really need to be with our students, so that they really truly are achieving in a way that is responsive to who students are, without asking students to give up who they are.
Absolutely. No, I think that is something that a lot of districts around this country really need. So I think that's great. Now, Tanya, am I correct in saying this is your first annual conference? Are you excited? What are you looking forward to?
I'm very excited. First and foremost, I've never been to Washington State. So you're probably too young, but there is this whole series called Twilight about this vampire.
Oh, no, I am not too young for that. Let me tell you.
So as you know, the rain, is like real in the state of Washington State. So anyway, I'm really excited about coming to Washington State. The other reason is because I'm excited to be able once again to be with the folks who are like-minded and a part of AASPA. We are coming together to glean and learn and re-examine what we think we know. And I'm excited to hear from the other session speakers and to network and to continue to expand and grow. One of the things that I learned from coming to the DEI summit that AASPA sponsors is this framework of understanding that we've got to come together, and then we've got to shift from power over to power with. And then my session is going to take us another step to power to. And what power to means is that we're going to share power with our teachers, with our families, with our students, and yes, with diverse educators, with teachers and principals of color. We've got to do this shift to power to. And I think that my session and the other sessions that will be in place in October are definitely going to speak to that. So I'm excited about that.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited to see you October 15th through 18th and watch your presentation. I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. Thank you so much for coming with me, Tanya. This is great.
Thank you, Lily, for having me. And I hope I get to meet you. And if I don't, it was an honor and a pleasure to talk to you. And I wish you the best in your future endeavors, even as you continue to learn from all the people you're going to interview and all of the wisdom that they are going to be sharing and learning at the same time. So thank you, girl.
Well, thank you, Tanya. You have a wonderful time. Thank you. And then